Thanksgiving Day, 2023. That's the day my whole world flipped upside down. That's the day my daughter-in-law, Keisha, looked me dead in the eye across my own dining room table and said the words that would change everything. This is my house now, old woman. Let me back up. My name is Dorothy Jenkins. I'm 63 years old, been living in this house in Southside Chicago for 35 years. My husband, Robert, God rest his soul, bought this house with his own two hands' work. He was a union man, worked at the steel mill for 30 years before the cancer took him when our son Marcus was only 12. That was 25 years ago, and I raised that boy by myself. Worked double shifts at Cook County Hospital as a nurse, came home, cooked dinner, helped with homework, got him through school, through college, everything. Just me and Jesus, that's how we made it. Marcus grew up to be a fine young man. Got his degree in business, landed a good job at a marketing firm downtown. I was so proud of him, y'all. My baby boy, making something of himself. And then 3 years ago, he brought Keisha home for the first time. I remember that day like it was yesterday. She walked into my living room wearing a designer dress, carrying a purse that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Light-skinned, long weave down her back, nails done perfect. But something in her eyes, child, something cold. When I hugged her, she barely hugged me back. Just kind of patted my shoulder like I was a stranger on the street. "Mama, this is Keisha," Marcus said, and his eyes were shining like she was the sun, moon, and stars all wrapped up in one package. "Oh, it's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Jenkins," Keisha said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Marcus has told me so much about you." We sat down for dinner that night. I had cooked all day. Made my famous fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, cornbread, sweet potato pie, the works. Marcus was eating like he hadn't had a home-cooked meal in years. But Keisha, she picked at her plate like the food might bite her back. "Is something wrong with the food, baby?" I asked her. "Oh, no, Mrs. Jenkins," she said, pushing the greens around in her plate. "I'm just watching my figure. You know how it is." Then she looked at me up and down and added, "Well, maybe you don't." Marcus didn't even catch it, but I did. That little dig about my weight. I'm a full-figured woman, always have been. My Robert loved every inch of me. Used to say, "Dorothy, you got enough woman hair for a lifetime." But Keisha had just called me fat in my own house, at my own table, eating my own food. I should have said something right then. I should have checked her right there. But I didn't, because my son was happy, and I thought, maybe I'm being sensitive. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Lord, I wish I had listened to my first mind. 6 months later, Marcus called me up, excited as a kid on Christmas morning. "Mama, I proposed. Keisha said yes. We're getting married." My heart should have been full of joy. Instead, I felt this heavy feeling in my chest, like something bad was coming. But I pushed it down. I said all the right things. "Congratulations, baby. I'm so happy for you. When's the wedding? Can I help with anything?" "Actually, Mama," Marcus said, and his voice got a little quieter, "Keisha wants to talk to you about that. She has some ideas." Keisha got on the phone, and her voice was sweet as pie. Too sweet. "Mrs. Jenkins, I'm so excited to officially become part of the family. I was thinking we could meet for lunch tomorrow to discuss the wedding plans. There's so much to do, and I could really use your help." The next day, we met at some fancy restaurant downtown, the kind of place where they don't list prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Keisha was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window, sipping on something that looked expensive. "Mrs. Jenkins," she called out, waving me over. "Sit, sit." I sat down, and before I could even look at the menu, she started talking and talking and talking about flowers and venues and photographers and dresses. My head was spinning. And of course, she said, leaning forward with that practiced smile, we'll need help with the costs. Marcus and I are saving for our future home, so we can't spend too much on the wedding. But I know you want to contribute to your only son's special day. There it was, the ask. How much are we talking about? I asked carefully. Well, Keisha pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet! With everything I have planned, we're looking at about $45,000. I figured you could cover half of that. You know, as the groom's mother. It's traditional. $45,000 for one day. I almost choked on my water. Keisha, baby, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. That's a lot of money. I'm a retired nurse. I live on my pension and my savings. I can help, but $22,500? That's... You do want Marcus to be happy, don't you? She interrupted, and her eyes went hard. You do want your son to have the wedding of his dreams, because he's told me how hard you worked for him growing up, how you sacrificed everything. Surely you wouldn't stop now, right when it matters most. She had me. She knew exactly what button to push. My son's happiness, my identity as a good mother, my pride in being able to provide for my child. I'll see what I can do, I heard myself saying. Perfect! Keisha clapped her hands together. I knew you'd understand. You're going to be the best mother-in-law ever. Over the next year, I pulled money from my retirement savings. I took out a small loan against my house. I worked part-time at the hospital again. Even though my knees ached and my back hurt, I gave them $22,500 for that wedding. And you know what? When the invitations went out, my name wasn't even on them. It said, "The honor of your presence is requested at the marriage of Keisha Marie Thompson and Marcus James Jenkins." No mention of the families, no mention of me. The wedding was beautiful. I'll give her that. But I felt like a guest, not the mother of the groom. Keisha's mama sat at the head table with them. I got put at table 7 with cousins I barely knew. After they got married, things got worse. They moved into a nice apartment downtown, and suddenly every time Marcus called me, it was with a new request. Mama, we need help with the deposit. Mama, the car broke down. Mama, Keisha's student loans are due. Always something. Always my wallet opening. In 2 years of marriage, I gave them another $37,500. I kept track, wrote it all down in a little notebook I kept in my nightstand. Every check, every cash payment, every Venmo transfer. $60,000 total. That was my retirement. That was my security. That was supposed to be my future. But Keisha wasn't satisfied with just my money. She wanted my son completely to herself. She started making excuses why they couldn't come to Sunday dinner. Too busy, too tired. Marcus has to work. Then she stopped answering my calls. When I'd call Marcus's phone, she'd pick up and say he was busy, she'd have him call me back. He never did. I started seeing them less and less, maybe once a month, then once every 2 months. My own son, who I raised by myself, who I sacrificed everything for, was becoming a stranger. And then came Thanksgiving 2023. I had invited them over, like I did every year. To my surprise, Keisha said yes. "We'll be there at 2 p.m., Mrs. Jenkins, and actually, we have some exciting news to share with you." I cooked for 2 days. Turkey, dressing, greens, candied yams, mac and cheese, cranberry sauce, green beans, cornbread, 3 kinds of pie. I cleaned my house until it sparkled. I was so excited to see my son, to have my family together. They arrived at 3:30, an hour and a half late. Marcus looked uncomfortable, wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Keisha walked in like she owned the place, heading straight for my living room without even greeting me properly. Traffic was terrible, she said, not apologizing. She sat down on my couch, pulled out her phone, and started scrolling. "Dinner's ready," I said. "Y'all want to wash up and come eat?" We sat down at the table and I said grace, thanking the Lord for bringing my family together. When I opened my eyes, Keisha was already reaching for the mac and cheese. "So," I said, trying to make conversation. "Marcus, how's work going? They treat you right at that firm?" Before Marcus could answer, Keisha cut in. "Work is fine, but we're actually ready to take the next step in our lives." She looked at Marcus, who suddenly seemed very interested in his plate. "What step is that, baby?" I asked. Keisha smiled, and it was the coldest smile I'd ever seen. "We're ready to buy a house, a real house, not some little starter home, but a proper house in a good neighborhood, the kind of house that reflects Marcus's success." "That's wonderful," I said, genuinely happy. "Where are y'all looking?" "Well," Keisha said, putting down her fork and looking directly at me, "we've been thinking, you're getting older, Mrs. Jenkins. This house is too big for you. All these stairs, all this space. It's not practical for a woman your age to be living alone in a house this size." My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming. "We think," she continued, her voice sickeningly sweet, "that it would make sense for you to sign this house over to Marcus. Then you could move into a nice little assisted living facility. We've actually already looked into a few. There's one not too far from here, very affordable. You'd have your own room, they'd cook for you, clean for you. Wouldn't that be easier?" The room started spinning. "Excuse me?" "It just makes sense, Mama." Marcus finally spoke up, still not looking at me. "This house is paid off. We could move in here, and you wouldn't have to worry about maintenance or upkeep or living in my own home that my husband bought, the home where I raised you, where I've lived for 35 years." "Don't be dramatic, Dorothy," Keisha said. And that's when she did it. That's when she looked me dead in the eye and said it. "This is my house now, old woman. You just don't know it yet." The silence that followed Keisha's words was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I sat there, my fork halfway to my mouth, trying to process what I had just heard. Did this woman really just tell me that my house was now her house? Marcus cleared his throat. "Keisha, baby, maybe we should..." "Should what, Marcus?" she snapped at him. "Your mama needs to understand the reality. She's 63 years old, living alone in this big house. What happens when she falls down these stairs? We're just being practical." "Practical?" I found my voice and it came out stronger than I expected. "Baby girl, I've been taking care of myself since before you were born. I worked double shifts at the hospital, raised my son alone, paid off this house, and I'm not going nowhere." Keisha's face changed. The fake sweetness dropped completely, and I saw the real woman underneath. Cold, calculating, mean. "Mrs. Jenkins," she said, her voice dripping with condescension, "let's not pretend you're doing us any favors. This house is going up in value. Marcus deserves to build equity. You've already taken out a loan against this property. We know about that. You're putting his inheritance at risk." How did she know about the loan? I had taken out $15,000 against my house to help pay for their wedding. The only person I told was Marcus. "Marcus," I looked at my son, You told her about my personal finances? My boy couldn't even look me in the eye. He just sat there, pushing food around his plate. We tell each other everything, Mrs. Jenkins, Keisha answered for him. We're married. We don't keep secrets, unlike some people who pretend they have money when they're actually struggling. I am not struggling, I said, my voice rising. I manage my finances just fine. It became your business when you started draining your resources instead of preserving them for Marcus's future, Keisha shot back. Do you even keep track of how much you've given us? Of course I kept track. Every single penny was written in my notebook upstairs, $60,000. But I wasn't about to tell her that. Whatever I gave my son, I gave with love, I said quietly. Love doesn't pay bills, Dorothy. She actually called me by my first name, not Mrs. Jenkins, not even Mama, Dorothy. And speaking of bills, we need another $10,000 by the end of the month. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. For what? The down payment on Marcus's new car. His lease is up and we found a perfect BMW, but we're $10,000 short. Then get a cheaper car. Marcus deserves to drive something that reflects his status. I would think you'd understand that, considering you want him to be successful. There it was again, that manipulation, making me feel like if I didn't give them money, I didn't care about my son's success. Success doesn't come from Mama buying you a BMW, I said slowly. Success comes from hard work and living within your means. Keisha's eyes went cold as ice. You know what your problem is, Dorothy? You're stuck in the past. Times have changed. Young Black professionals need to invest in themselves. And if you're not willing to support that, then maybe Marcus needs to reevaluate your role in his life. What did you just say to me? I stood up from the table, my hand shaking. Mama, please, Marcus finally spoke up, his voice weak. Can we all just calm down?
Yes, I did mean it, Keisha interrupted him. Marcus, your mother needs to understand that we're a package deal now. If she can't support us as a couple, then maybe we need some distance. Distance? I looked at my son. Marcus James Jenkins, is this what you want? You want distance from your own mother? He still wouldn't look at me. Mama, you're making this harder than it needs to be. We're just asking for help. Why is it different now? Because she's using you. The words burst out of me. Baby, can't you see what's happening? She's isolating you from me, taking your money, taking my money, and now she wants my house. That's ridiculous, Keisha said, standing up. Marcus, do you hear what she's saying about me? Your own mother is accusing me of using you? This is how she treats me? And then I watched my son make a choice. He stood up, walked over to Keisha's side of the table, and put his arm around her shoulders. Mama, he said, and his voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. I think you owe Keisha an apology. My heart shattered into a million pieces right there in my own dining room. Get out, I whispered. What? Marcus looked shocked. I said, get out. My voice rose to a shout. Get out of my house, both of you. Keisha grabbed her purse with a satisfied smile. Come on, Marcus. Your mother is clearly not in her right mind. We'll come back when she's ready to be reasonable. I'm sorry, Mama, Marcus said, but he was already following Keisha to the door. Marcus, baby, please. I reached for him, but he pulled away. I'll call you later, Mama, when you've calmed down. And just like that, they were gone. I stood in my living room, surrounded by the Thanksgiving dinner I had spent 2 days preparing, completely alone. I sat down on my couch, and I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since Robert died. How had my sweet baby boy turned into a stranger? My phone rang. It was Marcus. Hello? Mama? His voice was stiff, formal. Keisha is very upset. You really hurt her feelings today. I need you to apologize to her. I hurt her feelings? She's been nothing but respectful to you. Now we still need that $10,000 by the end of the month. Are you going to help us or not? I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said something I never thought I would say to my son. No. What? No, Marcus. I'm not giving you any more money. The line went dead. He had hung up on me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, and I realized something that made me feel sick. This had been building for 3 years. The distance, the requests for money, the manipulation. Keisha had been slowly separating Marcus from me, and I had let it happen because I was afraid of losing him. But I had already lost him. The next morning, I was sitting at my kitchen table, still in my nightgown, when my doorbell rang. My best friend Gloria stood there with a bag from the bakery. Gloria Washington had been my friend for 40 years. We met at the hospital when we were both young nurses. She was the one who held my hand at Robert's funeral. She was family. "Girl, open this door," she called out. "I know you in there, and I brought pecan rolls." I opened the door, and one look at my face told her everything. She pulled me into a hug, and I started crying again. "Tell me everything," she said. And I did. I told her about Thanksgiving, about the money, about Marcus hanging up on me, how scared I was, how alone I felt. Gloria listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. "Dorothy Jenkins, you are about to let that girl take everything from you. Your money, your house, your son, and your dignity. And I'm not going to sit here and watch it happen." "But what can I do?" I asked helplessly. "First thing Monday morning, you're coming with me to see my lawyer. We're going to protect your assets, protect this house, and protect you. Because right now, baby, you're in danger."
Monday morning came, and Gloria picked me up at 9 a.m. sharp. She was dressed in her church clothes, looking like she meant business. I had barely slept all weekend. Marcus hadn't called back, and every time I tried to reach him, it went straight to voicemail. "Stop calling him," Gloria said as we drove downtown. "You're giving him power. Let him sit with what he did." We pulled up to a tall building in the Loop. Gloria's lawyer was a sharp-looking black woman named Diane Foster. She was about 45, wearing a navy suit that screamed success. "Miss Jenkins," Diane shook my hand firmly, "Gloria told me about your situation. Let's talk." We sat in her office, and I told her everything. The wedding money, the loan against my house, the constant requests, Keisha's threat about taking my home. Diane took notes, her face getting more serious with every detail. When I finished, she put down her pen and looked at me directly. "Miss Jenkins, what you're describing is financial elder abuse, and it's more common than you think, especially when there's a manipulative daughter-in-law involved." Elder abuse? The words hit me hard, but I'm only 63. I'm not... "Age doesn't matter," Diane interrupted gently. "What matters is the pattern. They isolated you socially. They created financial dependence. They're now trying to take your primary asset, your home. This is textbook." She pulled out a legal pad. "Let's document everything. Every dollar you gave them, every request, every threat. We need a complete financial history." I reached into my purse and pulled out the small notebook I'd been keeping. Diane's eyebrows went up. "You kept records?" "Every single payment," I said, opening it. "November 2020, $5,000 for wedding venue deposit. January 2021, $8,000 for wedding dress and tuxedo rental. March 2021, $9,500 for catering and flowers." I kept reading. The list went on and on. Wedding costs, apartment deposits,
car repairs, credit card payments, emergency vet bills for a dog they didn't even have anymore, furniture, vacation spending money. When I finished, Diane calculated the total. $60,000 in 3 years, plus the $15,000 loan against your house for their wedding. Seeing it written out like that in someone else's handwriting made it real in a way it hadn't been before. $75,000. That was almost everything I saved from 35 years of nursing. Mrs. Jenkins, Diane said carefully, did you ever sign anything giving Marcus or Keisha legal authority over your finances? Power of attorney, joint accounts? No, nothing like that. Good, that makes this easier. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're changing your will immediately. Second, we're putting your house in a trust that protects it from any future claims. Third, we're going to draft a cease and desist letter making it clear that any further harassment or threats will result in legal action. But Marcus is my son, I said, my voice breaking. I don't want to take legal action against my own child. Dorothy, Gloria spoke up, you're not taking action against him, you're protecting yourself from him. There's a difference. Diane nodded. Your son is an adult. He's made choices. Now you need to make choices too. Choices that protect your future. Over the next 2 hours, we went through everything. Diane drafted documents, I signed papers, we set up the trust, changed my will. By the time we left that office, my house was legally protected in a way that Keisha couldn't touch it. How much do I owe you? I asked Diane. Gloria already covered it, she said. Consider it an early Christmas present. But Mrs. Jenkins, I need you to promise me something. No more money to Marcus. Not $1, no matter what story he tells you. I promised, but I didn't know if I could keep it. That evening, I was home making dinner, just some soup and cornbread, when someone started pounding on my door. Loud, aggressive knocking that made my heart jump. I looked through the peephole. It was Keisha, and she looked furious. I know you're in there, Dorothy, she yelled. Open this door. I didn't move. I just watched through the peephole as she pounded again. You went to a lawyer? Marcus got a letter today at work. How dare you threaten us with legal action? So the cease and desist letter had been delivered? Good. You bitter old woman, Keisha screamed. You can't stand to see your son happy. You want to control him forever. Well, it's not going to work. This house will be ours, one way or another. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Diane had told me to document everything. You're going to regret this, Keisha continued. We'll have you declared incompetent. We'll tell everyone you've lost your mind. No judge will let a crazy old woman keep a house this valuable when she can't even manage her own affairs. That's when I heard Marcus's voice. Keisha, come on, let's go. No, she yelled. Your mother needs to understand. Keisha, please, the neighbors are watching. I watched through the peephole as Marcus, my baby boy, grabbed his wife's arm and pulled her back toward their car. She was still yelling, but I couldn't make out the words anymore. After they left, I sat down on my couch, shaking. I sent the video to Diane immediately. 5 minutes later, she called. Mrs. Jenkins, this is perfect. This shows clear harassment and threats. If they try anything legal against you, we have evidence of their real motivations. That night, Gloria came over with chicken from Harold's and we ate together in my kitchen. You did good today, Dorothy, she said. You stood up for yourself. Then why do I feel so bad? Why does it feel like I'm losing my son? Because you already lost him, baby, Gloria said gently. That woman took him from you piece by piece. Now you're just protecting what's left. Your home, your money, your dignity. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Mama, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to hurt us? I showed it to Gloria. She took my phone and blocked his number. Gloria, I protested. Temporary, she said firmly. You need space. He needs to understand that actions have consequences. You are not a bank. You are not a doormat. You are a woman who worked her whole life, and you deserve to keep what's yours." She was right. I knew she was right, but knowing it didn't make it hurt any less.
2 weeks passed without a word from Marcus. Thanksgiving turned into December, and the Christmas season started creeping up. Every year since Marcus was born, we spent Christmas together. It was our thing, our tradition. But this year, my phone stayed silent. I threw myself into work at the church. Pastor Williams had me organizing the Christmas food drive, and staying busy kept my mind off the emptiness in my house. But every night when I came home, the silence was deafening. Gloria checked on me daily. "You doing okay?" she'd ask, and I'd lie and say yes. Then, on a cold Tuesday morning, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a white man in a suit holding a briefcase. My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins?" he asked when I opened the door. "Yes?" "You've been served." He handed me an envelope and walked away. My hands shook as I opened it. The words blurred together at first, but then they came into focus. Marcus and Keisha were suing me. They were petitioning the court to have me declared mentally incompetent to manage my own affairs. They wanted Marcus appointed as my legal guardian. I couldn't breathe. My own son, my baby, he was trying to take everything from me through the courts. I called Diane immediately. She came to my house within an hour. "This is aggressive," she said, reading through the paperwork. "They're claiming you've shown signs of dementia, that you're making irrational financial decisions, that you're a danger to yourself." "That's a lie," I said. "I'm perfectly fine." "I know that, Mrs. Jenkins, but we need to prove it. They've already scheduled a competency hearing. We have 3 weeks to prepare." "What do they get if they win?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "If Marcus is appointed your guardian, he controls everything. Your bank accounts, your house, your medical decisions. Everything." That evening, I sat in my living room in the dark, just staring at nothing. How had it come to this? How had the little boy I used to rock to sleep, the teenager I helped with homework, the young man I was so proud of, become someone who would do this to his own mother? My phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Jenkins?" A woman's voice. "This is Patricia Holmes. You don't know me, but I need to talk to you about Keisha." My heart started racing. "Who are you?" "I was Keisha's first husband's mother. Her first mother-in-law. Before Marcus." The world tilted. "First husband? She didn't tell you?" "I'm not surprised. She doesn't like people knowing about Derek. My son married her 4 years ago. She did the same thing to him that she's doing to Marcus. Isolated him from family, took his money, and when my husband died and left me a house in Hyde Park, she tried to get Derek to convince me to sign it over." "What happened?" I whispered. "I fought back, got lawyers involved. The marriage fell apart. Derek divorced her 2 years ago. But Mrs. Jenkins, you need to know something. She's dangerous. She finds successful Black men with widowed mothers who have assets. It's a pattern. You're not the first. And if someone doesn't stop her, you won't be the last." "Why are you calling me?" "Because my son told me Marcus Jenkins got married. I looked her up on Facebook, saw the wedding photos. When I saw your son's name, I did some research. Found out about the lawsuit. Mrs. Jenkins, I have documentation, court records from our case, emails, text messages, evidence of her pattern. I can help you." Hope flooded through me for the first time in weeks. "Can you meet me tomorrow?" "I'll be there." The next day, Patricia Holmes came to my house. She was an elegant woman in her late 60s with gray locks and kind eyes that had seen pain. She brought a folder full of documents. "This is everything," she said, spreading papers across my dining room table.
Court transcripts showing she tried to manipulate Derek into filing for guardianship of me. Text messages where she coaches him on what to say. Bank statements showing she drained $40,000 from his accounts. I read through everything, my hands shaking. It was like reading my own story, just with different names. Did Derek know what she was doing? I asked. Patricia's face softened with sadness. Not at first. She's very good at manipulation. She made him believe I was the problem, that I was trying to control his life. It wasn't until I showed him bank statements that he started to see the truth. By then, so much damage was done. Where's your son now? In therapy, trying to rebuild his life. He lost his savings, his relationship with me was damaged, and he struggles with trusting people. Keisha destroyed him financially and emotionally. Why didn't you warn Marcus? I asked. Not accusatory, just curious. I tried, Patricia said. I found him on LinkedIn when I saw they were dating, sent him a message, he blocked me. Keisha probably told him I was crazy trying to ruin her happiness. That's what she does. She gets ahead of the story. I called Diane and told her about Patricia. Diane came over immediately, and the three of us spent hours going through everything. By the end, Diane was smiling for the first time since this nightmare began. This changes everything, Diane said. This establishes a pattern of behavior. We can use this in court to show you're not the problem. She is. And Marcus is her victim, just like Derek was. Can we save him? I asked. Can we show Marcus the truth? Diane and Patricia exchanged a look. Mrs. Jenkins, Patricia said gently, Derek didn't believe me until he was ready, until the evidence was undeniable. Marcus might not be ready yet. But we can try, Diane added. Once we present this in court, once it becomes public record, he'll have to confront it. Over the next week, we prepared. Diane deposed Patricia. We gathered every piece of evidence. Medical records showing I was in perfect health, bank statements showing careful financial management, character witnesses from my church, from the hospital where I used to work. Gloria organized a prayer circle at church for me. 20 women showed up, sisters who had known me for years. They prayed over me, held my hands, reminded me that I was not alone. The enemy wants you to feel isolated, but you are surrounded by warriors. We will stand with you. On Friday night, 1 week before the hearing, someone threw a brick through my front window. A note was tied to it. Drop the lawsuit or it gets worse. I called the police. They came, took a report, but said without witnesses, there wasn't much they could do. I knew it was Keisha. The security camera I had installed after her last visit had mysteriously stopped working that afternoon. That night, Gloria stayed with me. We'd pushed my couch in front of the broken window and slept in shifts, taking turns keeping watch. This is insane, I said around 3 a.m., both of us sitting in my living room drinking tea. This is my life now? Afraid in my own home because of my son's wife? Not for long, Gloria said firmly. Next week, we fight back. Next week, the truth comes out. The morning of the hearing, I woke up at 5 a.m. Couldn't sleep anyway. My stomach was in knots and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. This was it. Today, a judge would decide if I was competent enough to control my own life, or if my son would take everything from me. Gloria arrived at 7 a.m. with breakfast from the diner, scrambled eggs, grits, and bacon. I couldn't eat a bite. You need to eat something, Dorothy, she said. You need your strength. I can't. I feel sick. She pushed the plate toward me anyway. Eat. That's an order. I managed a few bites of grits. Gloria had laid out my clothes the night before. A navy blue dress suit, modest but professional, pearl earrings Robert had given me on our 20th anniversary. I wanted to look like exactly what I was, a competent, dignified woman who had worked hard her whole life. Diane called at 8 a.m. "I'm on my way to pick you up. Patricia's meeting us at the courthouse. Mrs. Jenkins, I need you to stay calm today no matter what they say about you. Let me handle it." "What are they going to say?" "They're going to paint you as confused, irrational, maybe even dangerous to yourself. They'll probably bring up the loan against your house, your decision to cut them off financially. They'll twist everything to make you look incompetent." My chest tightened. And what do we say? We tell the truth, and we show the pattern. Patricia's testimony is going to be crucial. When the judge sees that Keisha did this exact same thing to another family, it changes the whole narrative. We arrived at the courthouse at 9:30 a.m. The hearing was scheduled for 10. Patricia was already there, waiting on a bench outside the courtroom. She stood up when she saw me and pulled me into a hug. "You're going to be fine," she whispered. "The truth is on your side." At 9:45, Marcus and Keisha arrived with their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. Marcus wouldn't look at me. He stared straight ahead like I wasn't even there. But Keisha? She looked right at me and smiled. A cold, satisfied smile that said she thought she had already won. The bailiff called us in. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Just a few rows of benches, the judge's bench up front, and 2 tables for the lawyers. We sat on one side, Marcus and Keisha on the other. The judge came in, a black woman in her 50s named Judge Richardson. "This is a petition for guardianship," she began, looking at the papers in front of her. "Mr. Marcus Jenkins is petitioning to be appointed guardian of Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins on the grounds that she is unable to manage her own affairs. Let's begin with the petitioner. Mr. Jenkins, you may present your case." Their lawyer stood up. His name was Richard Morrison, and he had a voice that dripped with false concern. "Your Honor, this is a difficult case for everyone involved. Mr. Jenkins loves his mother deeply. That's why he's here today. Mrs. Jenkins has shown increasing signs of cognitive decline over the past several months. She has made irrational financial decisions, including taking out unnecessary loans. She has become paranoid and hostile toward family members. She has isolated herself from her support system. Mr. Jenkins is deeply concerned for her safety and well-being." He called Marcus to the stand first. My son sat down, swore to tell the truth, and still wouldn't look at me. "Mr. Jenkins," Morrison said, "can you describe your mother's recent behavior?" Marcus cleared his throat. His voice was quiet. "She's been different, aggressive. She used to be so generous and loving, but now she's angry all the time. She accused my wife of terrible things. She threw us out of her house on Thanksgiving. She stopped answering my calls. And then she got lawyers involved, sent us legal threats. It's not like her. She's not herself." "Has she made any concerning financial decisions?" "Yes. She took out a loan against her house, which puts it at risk. And she suddenly cut off all financial support to me and my wife without explanation. We were counting on her help. She had always been there for us, and then suddenly she just stopped. It doesn't make sense. In your opinion, is your mother capable of managing her own affairs?" "No, I don't think she is. I think she needs help. I think she needs someone to protect her from herself." Diane stood up. "Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine." "Go ahead, Miss Foster." Diane walked toward Marcus, her heels clicking on the courtroom floor. "Mr. Jenkins, how much money has your mother given you in the past 3 years?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know exactly." "Let me help you. According to bank records, it's $60,000. Does that sound right?" "I guess." "And the loan she took out against her house, do you know why she took out that loan?" Silence. "Mr. Jenkins, I asked you a question. Why did your mother take out that loan?" "To help us," he said quietly. "To help you with what?" "Our
Wedding. So your mother took out $15,000 against her house to pay for your wedding? And now you're calling that an irrational financial decision? Objection, Morrison said. Argumentative. Sustained, Judge Richardson said. But I'd like to hear the answer, Mr. Jenkins. Marcus finally looked up, and for a split second I saw my baby boy in his eyes, confused, ashamed. But then he blinked and the coldness came back. She offered to help. We didn't force her. Did you ask for the money? Diane pressed. Keisha and I needed help with the wedding costs. That's not what I asked. Did you ask your mother for that money? Yes. And the $10,000 you requested last month for a car down payment, was that before or after you filed this petition for guardianship? Marcus went pale. Before. So let me get this straight. You asked your mother for $10,000, she said no, and 2 weeks later, you filed legal paperwork to have her declared incompetent so you could control her finances. Is that correct? That's not why yes or no, Mr. Jenkins. Is that the timeline? Yes, but no further questions. Diane had just destroyed Marcus's credibility in under 5 minutes, but it wasn't over yet. Next, they called Keisha to the stand. She walked up there with confidence, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She sat down, crossed her legs, and smiled at the judge like they were having tea. Morrison asked her softball questions about my erratic behavior, my paranoia, my hostility. She answered with practiced concern, dabbing at her eyes like she was heartbroken. Then Diane stood up, and I saw Keisha's smile falter for just a second. Mrs. Jenkins, this is your first marriage, correct? Yes, Keisha said, but her voice was tight. Are you sure about that? Keisha's eyes darted to Marcus. Yes, I'm sure. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence a marriage certificate from 2019. Keisha Thompson married to Derek Holmes. And here's the divorce decree from 2021. The courtroom went silent. Morrison jumped up. Objection! This is irrelevant. It's very relevant, Your Honor, Diane said calmly. It establishes a pattern of behavior. Judge Richardson looked at the documents. I'll allow it. Continue, Miss Foster. Mrs. Jenkins, you were married before to Derek Holmes, is that correct? Yes. Keisha's face had gone from cream to red. Yes. And Derek's mother was Patricia Holmes, correct? Yes. Your Honor, I'd like to call Patricia Holmes to the stand. Patricia stood up and walked to the front. She was sworn in, and Diane began. Mrs. Holmes, can you tell us about your relationship with Keisha? Patricia's voice was steady and clear. Keisha married my son 4 years ago. She immediately began isolating him from me and his family. She manipulated him into asking me for money constantly. And when my husband died and left me our home, she tried to convince Derek to have me declared incompetent so he could control my assets. The courtroom exploded. Morrison was shouting objections. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Keisha was shaking her head, mouthing lies, lies, lies. The judge banged her gavel. Order. Miss Foster, do you have documentation? Yes, Your Honor. Court transcripts, emails, text messages, all entered into evidence. The judge read through everything. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Nobody spoke. Finally, she looked up. We'll take a 30-minute recess. I need to review these documents more carefully.
Those 30 minutes felt like 30 hours. We sat on the bench outside the courtroom, not speaking. Gloria held my hand. Patricia sat on my other side. Diane paced back and forth, reviewing her notes. Across the hallway, Marcus and Keisha were having a heated, whispered argument. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see Keisha's face getting redder and Marcus's shoulders slumping lower. Their lawyer stood off to the side, looking at his phone, already knowing he'd lost. "Dorothy," Patricia said quietly, "no matter what happens in there, you did the right thing. You protected yourself." "But what about Marcus?" My voice cracked. "What about my son?" "He's going to have to face the truth now," she said, "just like Derek did. It's painful, but it's necessary." The bailiff opened the door. "Judge Richardson is ready." We filed back in. Judge Richardson sat at her bench, her face unreadable. She had a stack of papers in front of her, all the evidence we'd submitted. "I've reviewed everything," she began. "This is one of the most troubling cases I've seen in my 20 years on the bench. Mr. Morrison, your client's petition is denied. Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins is clearly competent to manage her own affairs. In fact, the evidence suggests she's been managing them quite well, despite significant financial manipulation by family members." My heart soared. I grabbed Gloria's hand so hard I probably hurt her. But Judge Richardson wasn't done. "Furthermore, I'm deeply disturbed by the pattern of behavior demonstrated here. Mrs. Keisha Jenkins, the court notes that you have a documented history of targeting elderly parents of your spouses. This is financial elder abuse, and I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation." Keisha shot up from her chair. "This is ridiculous. I haven't done anything wrong." "Sit down, Mrs. Jenkins," the judge said sharply. "You'll have your chance to address any charges if they're filed. Mr. Marcus Jenkins, I suggest you think very carefully about your choices. Your mother has shown nothing but love for you, and this is how you repay her?" Marcus's head was down, his shoulders shaking. Was he crying? "This petition is dismissed. Mrs. Dorothy Jenkins retains full control of all her assets and affairs. Court is adjourned." The gavel came down and it was over. I had won. Diane hugged me. Gloria was crying, happy tears. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. Across the room, Keisha grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But Marcus didn't follow her. He just sat there, his head in his hands. "Marcus," Keisha hissed from the doorway, "let's go. Now." He didn't move. "Marcus," she said louder. Finally, he lifted his head. His eyes were red, his face wet with tears. He looked at Keisha, then at me, then back at Keisha. "You lied to me," he said, his voice broken, "about everything. You told me your first marriage ended because his mother was crazy. But she wasn't crazy. She was protecting herself. From you. Just like my mama's doing." "Marcus, don't be ridiculous," Keisha said, but her voice had lost its power. "Your mother has turned you against me with lies and—" "I heard Patricia's testimony," Marcus interrupted. "I saw the documents. You did the exact same thing you did to Derek that you've been doing to me. Using me to get to my mother's money, her house." "That's not true." "Then why didn't you tell me you were married before? Why did you lie about that? What else have you been lying about?" Keisha's face twisted into something ugly. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I was married before. Yes, I tried to get Derek's mother's house. And yes, I wanted your mother's house too. You know why? Because I'm tired of struggling. I'm tired of working my way up. Your mother sits in that big house all alone while we're cramped in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's not fair." The mask had finally fallen off completely. This was the real Keisha. Not the sweet daughter-in-law, not the concerned wife, just a greedy, manipulative woman who saw other people as stepping stones. "How could I have been so blind?" Marcus said, more to himself than to anyone else. "You weren't blind, baby." Keisha's voice changed, trying to be soft again. "You were smart. We were building a future together. Your mother was just in the way. But we can still fix this. We can appeal the decision. We can... No, Marcus said firmly. We can't. Because I'm done. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with using my own mother. I'm done with you. Keisha's face went from shock to rage in a heartbeat. You're leaving me? After everything I did for you? I made you. I pushed you to get that promotion. I styled you, coached you, made you into someone. You made me into someone who sued his own mother, Marcus said quietly. Someone I don't even recognize. He walked past her, toward me. I stood up, my heart pounding. My baby boy was walking toward me. Mama, he said, and his voice broke. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then he was hugging me, sobbing into my shoulder like he used to do when he was a little boy and had a bad dream. I held him tight, tears streaming down my face. I'm sorry, he kept saying. I'm sorry, Mama. I was so stupid. I was so wrong. Can you ever forgive me? Behind us, Keisha let out a scream of pure rage. You're going to regret this, Marcus. Both of you. I'll take everything in the divorce. Every last penny. You'll have nothing. Then I'll have nothing, Marcus said, pulling back to look at me. But at least I'll have my mama back, if she'll have me. I cupped his face in my hands, looking at my son. Really looking at him. I saw the boy I raised. The good heart I'd always known was in there, just buried under manipulation and lies. Baby, I said softly, you've always been my son. Always will be. But you hurt me. You hurt me deep. I know, Mama. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I swear. Keisha stormed out the courtroom, slamming the courtroom door so hard it echoed. Her lawyer ran after her, probably already calculating his billable hours for the upcoming divorce. We stood there, me and Marcus, while Gloria, Patricia, and Diane gave us space. Finally, Marcus spoke again. Mama, can we talk? Really talk? I need to understand how I let this happen, how I became this person. Not today, baby, I said gently. Today, I just need to go home and breathe. We can talk tomorrow, or next week, when you're ready, when we're both ready. He nodded. Can I call you tomorrow? You can call me anytime. You're my son. That never changed. We walked out of the courthouse together. The December sun was shining, cold but bright. At the bottom of the steps, Marcus stopped. I'm going to go stay with my friend Jerome for a while. I can't go back to the apartment. Not yet. I need to figure some things out. You take all the time you need, I told him. Just know that when you're ready, my door is open. It always has been. He hugged me one more time, then walked toward the parking lot. I watched him go, my heart full of so many emotions, I couldn't name them all. Pain, relief, hope, fear, love. He's going to be okay, Gloria said, coming up beside me. He woke up. That's the hard part. You think so? I know so. That boy loves you. Keisha almost buried it, but it's still there. You saw it today. Patricia came over too. Mrs. Jenkins, if you ever need anything, you call me. And when Marcus is ready, have him call Derek. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who's been through it. Thank you, I said, hugging her. Thank you for saving me. We saved each other. That's what sisters do.
3 months passed. Winter turned to spring, and Chicago started to thaw. So did I. The week after the hearing, the district attorney's office called. They were opening an investigation into Keisha for financial elder abuse. Apparently, after Patricia's testimony became public record, 2 other women came forward, 2 other former mothers-in-law with the same story. Keisha had a pattern going back almost 10 years. Marcus filed for divorce.
2 weeks after the hearing, Keisha fought it, demanding half of everything, but her lawyer told her the truth. She had nothing. Marcus had no assets except his car and his 401k. Everything else had gone to her shopping habits and her schemes. Marcus and I started having coffee every Sunday morning at a diner near my house. The first few times were awkward. We talked about safe things, weather, sports, his job. But slowly, we started going deeper. "I don't know how I let it happen, Mama," he said one morning, stirring his coffee. "Looking back now, I can see all the red flags. The way she talked about your house from the very first visit. How she always had an emergency that needed money. How she slowly cut me off from you, from my friends, from everyone. Baby, that's what manipulators do. They do it so slowly you don't notice until you're trapped. She's good at what she does. Too good." "I chose her over you," he said, his voice breaking. "My own mama, the woman who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything for me. I chose a woman I'd known for 3 years over you." "But you came back," I reminded him. "When it mattered most, when you saw the truth, you came back. That's what counts." He wiped his eyes. "How can you forgive me so easy?" "Because you're my child. That's what mothers do. We forgive, we love, no matter what." I reached across the table and took his hand. "But Marcus, you need to do some work on yourself. You need to figure out why you were vulnerable to her manipulation in the first place." I already started seeing a therapist, Dr. Chin. She specializes in people who've been in manipulative relationships. It's helping. I was proud of him for that. My boy was doing the hard work of healing. In April, Keisha was formally charged with financial elder abuse and fraud. The trial was set for September. Patricia called me when she heard the news. "Justice," she said simply. "Finally." Marcus's divorce was finalized in May. He didn't get a big celebration. He just came over to my house that evening and we sat on the porch drinking sweet tea like we used to do when he was young. "I'm free," he said. "Legally, financially, emotionally, I'm free." "How does it feel?" "Scary," he admitted. "I'm 37 years old, divorced, living with a roommate, and I'm starting over. But Mama, it also feels good. I can breathe again. I can think clearly. I can be myself. That's all I ever wanted for you, baby. To be yourself, to be happy, really happy, not fake happy." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "Mama," Marcus said, "I want to pay you back, the $60,000. It's going to take me time, but I want to make it right." "Marcus." "Please, Mama, I need to do this. For me, I need to prove to myself that I'm a man of honor, that I can fix what I broke." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to tell him to forget it, that it was a gift. But I understood what he was saying. He needed to do this to forgive himself. "Okay," I said, "but no timeline. You pay what you can when you can. And if it takes 20 years, that's fine. Deal?" "Deal." That summer, Gloria organized a big 4th of July barbecue at my house. She invited everyone from church, all my old nursing friends, Patricia and Derek, and of course, Marcus. It was the first time I'd had a party at my house in 3 years. The first time my home felt full of love and laughter since before Keisha came into our lives. Marcus and Derek hit it off immediately. They sat in the corner of my backyard for hours, talking, comparing experiences, supporting each other. By the end of the night, they'd exchanged numbers and made plans to grab lunch the next week. "They're going to be okay," Patricia said, standing next to me as we watched them. "Both of our boys. They're going to be just fine." "Yes, they are," I agreed. In September, Keisha's trial began. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. Diane kept me updated. Patricia testified. Derek testified.
The two other women testified. Bank records were presented, emails, text messages. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury found her guilty on 4 counts of financial elder abuse and 2 counts of fraud. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison and ordered her to pay restitution to all her victims. When Diane called to tell me, I didn't feel happy or vindicated. I just felt tired and sad that someone could be so twisted that they'd spend their life hurting vulnerable people. It's over, Diane said. Really over. You're safe now. That night, I sat in my living room in the house that Robert bought, the house I'd fought so hard to keep. I thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, the fight, the victory, the healing. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Mama, just sent this month's payment. $500. I know it's not much, but it's a start. I love you. I text back. It's perfect, baby. Love you too. The next Sunday after church, Pastor Williams asked me to give my testimony, to tell the congregation what I'd been through. At first, I didn't want to. It was private. It was painful. But then I thought about all the other mothers out there who might be going through the same thing, who might need to hear that they're not alone. So I stood up in front of 200 people and I told my story. About Keisha, about Marcus, about the lawsuit, about fighting back, about forgiveness and healing. When I finished, the church was silent. Then one woman stood up and started clapping. Then another. Then another. Soon the whole church was on their feet, applauding. But more than that, I saw women crying, nodding, recognizing their own stories in mine. After the service, at least 15 women came up to me. Each one had a similar story: a manipulative daughter-in-law or son-in-law, financial abuse, isolation, fear. What did you do? How did you fight back? And I told them about getting lawyers, about documenting everything, about having the courage to say no, about protecting themselves even if it meant conflict with their children. I became a resource. Gloria and I started a support group at church for women dealing with financial elder abuse. We met every Tuesday evening. We shared stories, we shared strategies, we shared hope. 1 year after the hearing, Marcus came to my house for Thanksgiving. Just the two of us. No drama, no manipulation. Just a mother and her son, grateful to be together. We cooked together. Turkey, dressing, greens, mac and cheese. All the traditional foods. And as we sat down to eat, Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. Mama, before we say grace, I want to say something. What's that, baby? I want to say thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for fighting for yourself, even when it meant fighting against me. You saved my life. You saved both our lives. Tears filled my eyes. I don't have to thank you for loving you, Marcus. That's just what I do. We said grace together, thanking God for protection, for healing, for second chances. As we ate, Marcus told me about his promotion at work, about the new apartment he'd just moved into, about the nice woman he'd met at the gym, though he was taking it slow this time, really getting to know her. I'm not rushing into anything, he said. Dr. Chen says I need to work on myself first. And Mama, I'm actually enjoying being alone, getting to know who I am without someone else defining me. I'm proud of you, baby. So proud. After dinner, we sat on the couch watching football, just like we used to do when he was young. And for the first time in 4 years, everything felt right. My name is Dorothy Jenkins. I'm 64 years old. I live in a house my husband bought that I almost lost but fought to keep. I have $45,000 left in my retirement savings after giving $60,000 to my son, and I'm okay with that because he's paying me back slowly but surely. I learned that love doesn't mean letting people destroy you. I learned that being a good mother sometimes means saying no. I learned that forgiveness and boundaries can coexist. And I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. If you're listening to this story and you see yourself in it, if you have someone in your life draining you financially, isolating you, manipulating you, I want you to hear this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not being selfish for protecting yourself. Get help. Get lawyers. Get support. Document everything and don't be afraid to fight back, even if it means fighting against people you love. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to participate in your own destruction. My door is always open to Marcus now, but it's my door, my house, my life, and nobody, not even my own child, gets to take that from me again. To everyone who supported me, Gloria, Patricia, Diane, my church family, thank you. You saved me when I didn't know I needed saving. And to those who are still fighting, still struggling, still wondering if they're doing the right thing, keep going. The truth always comes to light. Justice might take time, but it comes. Don't let nobody take what's yours. Not your money, not your home, not your peace, not your dignity. You worked hard, sacrificed too much, and survived so long to let anyone take it from you now. God bless you all, and remember, you are not alone.